Next step, I'm going to have a look at the electronics. Now, I'm going to assemble this for the purposes of demonstration, but it's not actually how it goes together on the Vampire. Okay, basically what we've got is the center section of the Vampire top plate. Okay, now originally that comes with, attached to the main part of the plate, with 4 of these short M3 screws through these holes. So the idea is that sits on the top plate, Paris sits on top of that, right? And you can sort of build your core stack up that way, which is how we do it on most of the other airframes. However, with the Vampire, we have this top plate, which is more than just decorative, it's actually G10. So you can actually put RF stuff on it and not interference stuff. But it actually mounts up above the Paris plate using these red spacers. And the idea is you get these, this one there, long thumb screws, and you Loctite them, pre-Loctite them into the studs, like so, right? And then that will screw the top plate on, and then become the support of this plate. Okay, but for the purpose of the exercise, I'm not going to put that in, the grub screw. I'm going to just temporarily attach these to the bottom plate using those M3 bolts. Okay, just to show you how it goes together. Just remember, you don't actually, that if you go ahead and assemble it the way I'm about to, it won't fit onto the frame. Okay, you've got to redo these spacers with the grub screws differently. Okay, and I will show that all going together later anyway. Okay, so now just a note, I have the GPS attached. If you're going to do any sort of work with a board that's set up for GPS, you have to have it plugged in. If it isn't plugged in, you're going to get errors, you're going to get issues, right? So it's plugged in. Okay, alright, back to my top plate. First thing I want to do is, using the longest supplied spacers, I'm going to fit 4 of those with 4 nuts. Now with the nylon hub, we only ever do any of it finger tight. Okay. 2, 3, 4. While I'm at it, just for the sake of getting it out of the way, I'll also put the shorter nylon ones into the 4 metal studs on the top plate. Again, it's nylon, so just do them by hand. Don't go using, it's not a great idea to start using big spanners and torquing these things up too much, or you'll just strip the nylon thread. Now, like the bottom plate, you get a bit of the plastic, the tip coming through. I don't tend to I'm not going to bother trimming them off on this top plate because they're not going to hit anything underneath, but yeah, just if you want to make it a little neater, you can trim those off. It is entirely up to you. Get in there, yep. Okay, so Paris board then goes, just unplug the GPS for now, don't forget, plug it back in before you do anything. Just going to sit that on there, and I've got some longer nylon screws that I use to screw these on. Now once you've actually attached this to here, you never really have to, should never really have to take it off, because you'll just take, if you ever need to access it, you'll either just take the top plate off, or if you need to get underneath, you'll just undo the 4 spaces and pull this whole piece off as one section. I've done slightly different builds where I've actually suspended the Paris underneath the top plate. So it's not even actually attached to this, it's all attached to this. So the 4 screws pulls all the electronics off in one piece. But I'm doing this one more by the book. But just different one. You can mess around with this. I mean, my preference would be to use shorter standoffs than that one, but this is how the kit comes, so so be it. So as I said, I'm just going to temporarily screw these on. Just so you can see how it goes together. This isn't, as I said, this isn't how you would normally do it. These would have the grub screws in them and screw into the mainframe top plate. But it's just to give you the idea of how this central core section goes together. Yeah. I hate it when the screws don't cooperate. Okay. So, front GPS, we'll plug that into my receiver in a minute. Alright. Then, the idea is that goes on the top, and the wires off the andrometer and the LED ring go through this. So what I'm actually going to do, what I'll do is, there's the power input to the andrometer, is the longest lead, so I'm going to tuck you through there. We've also got the trigger wire that plugs onto the Paris board I'm going to feed through there. One thing you need to check, there's actually a pair of jumpers here. You need to make sure these are cut, they're arrived cut. You just want to make sure they are in fact cut, because they are for the if you're running this off a DJI, you need that link on. Okay, so there's my andrometer with the leads through the bottom. Okay, and I will actually put the screws into that. Let's use just the 4 short black screws. Again, this is all nylon hardware. Just like it was with the Voltaire and the base plate. Okay, now the last thing we need to do is stick our LED ring on top. And the idea is you just use some double-sided tape to sit that right on top of the andrometer like so, and tuck the wiring through underneath. So I'll do that off camera. In fact, I'll do that later, I don't need to do it for now. So the idea is that now attaches to the airframe, and then this plate pops on the top over those 4 standoffs, and we use 4 screws to attach that there. Our short M3s again. Okay, and that's basically the electronics hub done, ready to go. Except of course we haven't set anything up. So what we want to do now is set up the electronics, and I like to do it like this. I like to do it literally straight out of the packet, I like to plug it in to the USB, get the software running and get it all set up. So I'll now take the receiver, I'll wire up my leads to that. Now if you're using a Spectrum receiver, you're going to have to just trim off, these are actually a Futaba style plug, so they've got a little tab on them. You'll need to actually just remove that little extra tab when you use Spectrum. So there is a lovely picture showing this wiring order on the website, on the Paris board page. And if you're pathetic like me, you've gone and learnt it off by heart. What's that doing in there? Throttle, elevator, green is rudder, aux 1, goes to gear, and aux 2 goes to aux 1, which is when you're in aircraft mode, the flap channel on a radio like a DX6. And that's very tight fit. So that's my receiver wired in. So what I would do now, I'm not going to show you, but I would plug in my USB lead. Everything you should see powers up. And I would now, at this point in time, go away and bind this and set up all the receiver side of and my transmitter side of this, all separate, sitting here, okay? And I would make all of that work. The next step after that is I have to train the speed controllers. Okay, I take my speed controller training lead, which comes with my kit, and having done all this, I unplug that so it's powered down. So I've already learnt all of my endpoints and centers and I know all the throws are correct. And I plug this into the servo channel. I plug all 6 ESCs into these sockets. Okay, take my radio, power it up, full throttle, then power the ESCs, and as soon as they start to beep, instantly drop to 0 throttle, and that calibrates the endpoints of all the ESCs simultaneously. It's a very, very important step. I've covered it in other videos, but you do need to do it. Alright, I'm going to leave you with that, and we'll come back for the final assembly.